To turn on the microscope, there is the power button here. Then you can adjust the intensity by turning the wheel here. This is the sample stage where you can put the sample. So it's an upright microscope, so the sample will be observed from the top and not from the bottom here. And you can move the sample stage by turning these two wheels, so one direction or the other. Then you have to choose which objective you want to use. So there are here 5 objectives, a 4x, a 10x, a 20x, and 2 last objectives are 40x's. They are both 40x's, but they have different working distances, so it will depend on which sample you're working on. If you have a thick sample, for example, you may need to use the second 40x objective that has a larger working distance, so it will allow you to put a thicker sample on the sample stage. Once you've chosen your objective and placed your sample, you can decide which mode you want to observe your sample in. And so for that, you would have to turn the wheel here. So 0 is bright field mode, so it's the normal mode of microscopy. And then there are dark field, which is DF, dark field mode. So that's useful to observe a sample that don't have a high refractive index difference compared to the solvent, but that scatter light quite a lot. For example, if you're looking at capsules. Then there are phase contrast mode, pH3, pH2, pH1. So the phase contrast that you're going to use will depend on the objective you're using. So on the objective, it will be written which phase contrast you have to use. So once you've decided which microscopy mode you want to do, and you've chosen your objective and adjusted the light intensity, you'll need to try and find the focus of your sample. And so for that, you can change the focus by using either the coarse or the fine wheel on the side here of the microscope. Then there are 2 additional diaphragms that you can close to reduce the light intensity or to optimize the contrast of your sample. So one is at the bottom here. This basically just closes the diaphragm, so from open to closed. And there is another one that is just below the wheel here that will actually improve the contrast usually of the sample, so you can decrease that. Diaphragm here only works for bright field mode, so if you're in phase contrast or dark field, it will automatically be open. There is a spring that will automatically open this diaphragm because you will need to collect as much light as possible. There are 3 additional pins here. The first 2 towards you are just density filters, so if you close them, the intensity will decrease, that's it. The last one is a filter that will change the spectrum that goes to the sample just to make sure that the light that the sample receives is like the sunlight. So if it's open means it's pulled out on this side. It means that the sample is irradiated with the spectrum from the lamp directly, which is not the spectrum of the sun. So if you want the real colors and just observe your sample as if it was under sunlight, you need to close this filter. So pull it in on this side. You see that the color of the light actually changes. Last thing is, so here you can observe the sample to the eyepiece or with the camera. So the camera is plugged on the software that we're going to see in a minute. Here there is a pin again that will choose which path the light will take. So if it's completely closed, all the light will go to the eyepiece, so no light will go to the camera. If it's pulled out halfway through, that means that half of the light will go to the eye and half will go to the software. And if it's completely pulled out, all the light will go to the camera and not to the eyepiece. So usually we tend to leave it halfway through, so you can both observe the sample on the eyepiece and on the software at the same time. So I'm now going to show you how to use the cross-polarizer if you have a birefringent sample. So for that, you will find the polarizer and analyzer on the side of the microscope in these boxes. There are 2 different parts. So one looks like that, and this one is a fixed part, so it will have to be inserted here. So for that, you would unscrew this case, pull it out, and then you can put this analyzer in the case. So you can see there are 3 different magnetic parts. If you look at the back of this, you will also see 3 different magnetic parts. So you just make them overlay. And then you just place the case back inside and screw it back. This part you can put on top of the lens here. And this is the mobile part that you will be able to turn to look at the birefringence of your sample. So again, here you would first have to turn it so as to make the background completely dark, because the background is not supposed to be birefringent, so it should be completely dark. And then if your sample is birefringent, you will see light going to the eyepiece or to the camera of the sample. Once you're done using the two parts, you should put them back where they were to avoid having any dust on them. So you would remove that and put it back in this box. And the other one, of course, make sure that you're not touching with your fingers these filters. So be careful, take them by the edge and put them back in the box, and just leave the box again on the side, and you just screw back the case as it was in place.